הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שברחים גם יחד. 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 הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שברחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom.
Whoa. He has a very powerful voice, you know. Let's see if we got this sound problem.
Shabbat Shalom. There we go. Yeah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos, good evening. Welcome to Congregation Dor Tamid in our Friday evening Kabbalat Shabbat worship service. It is great to see you all here tonight. Those of you who are here in the sanctuary who braved the weather to get here. Those of you who are also joining us on our virtual platforms, on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, and our website. We are so glad all of you are here with us tonight as we welcome in this Shabbat, as we come to this time of rejoicing, this time of reflection, this time of renewal, that we are gifted each week, that we are given each week by our Creator as a break, as a time to set the schmutz of the week aside and to breathe in all that is good and high and holy and renew our souls to vayina fash, as the Torah teaches us. For whatever reason we come tonight, to be with community, to say prayers of healing, to have the support of our friends and loved ones as we walk through the valley of the shadow. We are here as a community. And as the psalm that we opened up said, how beautiful that truly is. And it is beautiful that even on a night like tonight, where it is dark and cold and rainy, we can bring light to the world, light of Shabbat into creation. So I'm going to ask a member of our board of directors, Ashley Chenault, to come forward to light our candles as we all turn to page 120.
Einu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Page 124, we read responsively. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. We turn now to page 130 for Lechuna Ranana. These words from the Psalms that say, "Come, let us sing together. Let us sing in this moment, singing in this joy of Shabbat."
Uniranena l'Adonai, Naria litzor yishenu, Nikadma fana betoda, Mizmirot narialo. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
Three, we read together Psalm 98. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song. For God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm, has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Hariu l'Adonai kol haaretz, pitzchu v'rananu v'zameru. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. Page 138. We turn now to the words of L'Chadodi, welcoming in the Sabbath bride as we sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Yalalai l'Chadodi, Yalalai l'Kakala, Yalalai P'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat nekabelat. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Yishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem multiferet v'litilah. Yalalai, yalalai l'Chadodi, yalalai l'Kakala, yalalai P'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat nekabelat. Likrat Shabbat lechu l'nelcha, ki hi mikor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh Shabbat tehillah. Yalalai, yalalai l'Chadodi, yalalai l'Kakala, yalalai P'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat nekabelat. Itoreri, itoreri, ki ba'orech Kivod Adonai alayek nigla. Yalalai, yalalalai lecha dodi. Yalalalai lecha kala. Yalalalai b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam v'simcha u'b'tzola toch emunei afsegula boi kala boi kala yalalai lecha dodi yalalai lecha kala yalalai b'nei Shabbat nekavela.
Last weekend, for the final nights of Hanukkah, my parents were in town from Minneapolis. And my mother likes to remind Marnie and I that the two of us, having met in Israel in high school and reconnecting in college, were, in my mother's words, beshert. Was meant to be. The concept of beshert, of it meant to be, of being in the right place at the right time, of the circumstances all lining up, the stars aligning, and everything working out. I'm not sure if I believe it, to be honest. Now, in my life at home with my wife, of course I do, but in other situations, I'm not so sure. Though we get then to this week's Torah portion, which puts us in the middle of the story of Joseph. And this part of the Torah portion that we are in, so beautifully told by Andrew Lloyd Webber in a calypso tune, tells the story of Joseph and his brothers reuniting after many years apart. For you may remember that Joseph's brothers, when he was young, were jealous of him, and they hated him, and they wanted to get rid of him, so they sold him to Egypt in slavery. After a number of trials and tribulations, of serving as a slave in the house of Potiphar, of being thrown in prison after being falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, Joseph had the opportunity to interpret the dreams of Pharaoh himself and became second in command of all of Egypt. What our Torah says, Av leFaro, as a father figure even to Pharaoh. Enter Joseph's brothers again. Having come to Egypt in search of food due to a region-wide famine that Joseph had predicted correctly when interpreting Pharaoh's dreams, and the brothers came to ask for provisions on behalf of their father's household, on behalf of all of their families. And Joseph, seeing his opportunity for a little comeuppance or revenge to his brothers for selling him into slavery, tricks them by placing his golden cup, his precious goblet, in the sack of his youngest brother Binyamin, of Benjamin's bag. And upon their attempting to leave, Joseph has his guards stop them and accuses them of thievery. Judah steps up and says, it wasn't us. We didn't do it. We couldn't have done it. We are your servants. How could this have happened? And upon his falling on his face and asking for mercy, Joseph, the Torah says, can't take it any longer. It says, Lo yachol Yosef lehit afek. He couldn't contain himself any longer. And he burst out in tears and said, do you not recognize me? I am your brother Joseph. But what he says next goes back to our idea of beshert. he says, V'ata al te'atzvu v'al yichad b'nechem ki mechartam oti hine ki limchaya shalachani Elohim lifnechem. Don't be troubled. Don't be chagrined because you sold me here. For it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. And he continues, V'ata lo atem shalachtem oti hine ki ha'Elohim. You didn't send me here, God did. God needed me to be in the right place at the right time in order to save these lives in Egypt and to ultimately save your lives in this famine. So while we can't understand the bigger picture, Joseph teaches us sometimes we truly are in the right place at the right time. So you all are probably asking yourselves, why is the rabbi at this time giving the Devar Torah? Because we're about to say the words of the Baruch Hu. We're about to enter into prayer. And part of being in prayer means being in the right place, being in the right time. One of the words we have for God is hamakom, the place. And so as we approach prayer, as we start to enter into prayer, we all find ourselves here in this place, at this time, in this group of community. We don't know why we made it here tonight. Some of us have our ideas, but what got us here ultimately? So that we could be here together in this moment, in this time, to call each other to pray, which we transition into with the words of the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah v'yalmat yifrach yiruteh v'yamnich malchuteh b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uvizman kariv v'imru amen Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'alam ulal me'al maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Na'amiran be'alma ve'imeru amen.
Please rise.
Ya lai lai, ya lai lai, ya lai lai, ya lai lai lai. Ya la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai amevorach. Baruch Adonai amevorach leolam va'ed. Ya lai lai, ya lai lai, ya lai 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 lai.
Please be seated as we continue on page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross forward? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Ukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokpenu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yamenu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'avatcha otasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam Beshivtecha, beveitecha, uvelechtecha, vaderech, uveshochbecha, uvkumecha, uksharta leot al yadecha, ve'ayu letotafot beinenecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Lema'an tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha neder b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha neder b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele. Nora tehilot osef ele. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
We turn now to page 162 as we turn to these words from Torah that remind us as we sing them each week that Shabbat is this gift from God that we are bound to keep, but when we do it, it renews us and renews our souls.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam, Berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbat vayinaf Shabbat Shabbat vayinaf v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Haset ha-Shabbat ledorotam, Berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam.
We turn now to page 164 as we rise for the tefillah.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, Adonai sifatai titach ufi agit ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasarim Tovim V'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים.
צומח נופלים
ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, וגואלי, וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, וגואלי, וגואלי.
We turn now in our prayer books to page 362 for Seder Kriyat Torah LeShabbat, our service for the reading of Torah on Shabbat. Please rise. In kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'in k'ma'asecha malchutecha
מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן. אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אב הרחמים, היטיבה ברצונך את ציון. Timnechomot Yerushalayim, Timnechomot Yerushalayim, Ki Vecha Levad Batachnu, Melech Aram V'Nisad Olamim, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, Udivar Adonai Mirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'Hikdushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti uneromima, Shemo Yaktav, Lecha Adonai Agedula, V'Agevura, V'Atiferet, V'Anetzach, V'Aod, Ki kol bashamayim uvaretz, Ki kol bashamayim uvaretz, Lecha Adonai amamlacha, Ve'amit na'aseh, Lechol lirosh, Al shlosha devarim, Al shlosha devarim, Al shlosha devarim, Ha'olam omed, Al shlosha devarim, Al shlosha devarim, Al shlosha devarim, Ha'olam omed, Al haTorah v'al avodah v'al gemilut chasadim, Al haTorah v'al avodah v'al gemilut chasadim, Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, Lo yemedu od milchama, Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, Lo yemedu od milchama, Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, Lo yemedu od milchama, Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, Lo yemedu od milchama.
The blessing for reading the Torah can be found on page 367. We are reading Parshat Vayigash, the reconciliation of Joseph with his brothers, and we bless the Torah together. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai
Hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah, v'lo yachol Yosef litapik, lechol hanitzavim alav vayikra, hotziu kol ish me'alai, v'lo amad ish oto, v'hitvada Yosef elechav, Vayiten et kolo bivchi, vayishmeu Mitzrayim, vayishma beit Paro, vayomer Yosef elechav, ani Yosef ha'od havichai, velo yachelu echav lano toto, ki nivhalu mipanav. Vayomer Yosef elechav, geshuna Elai vayigashu, vayomer ani Yosef achichem, asher mechartem oti Mitzrayma.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. With our hearts opened by words of Torah, we take a moment and think of those members of our community who are in need of a prayer of healing. Some are at home recovering, some are in the hospital. Some have diseases and illnesses from which they may never recover, and yet we ask for God's healing presence to be with them on this Shabbat and each day. This week, we think especially of Bev Mahone, Jerome Jacobs, Sylvia Kirsch, Alan Friedman, Sharon Rocco, Betty Olson, Sarah Kahn, Lee Silverstein, Jill Van Team, Eleanor Goodman, Yuli Makovich, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershon, Reva Fisher, Chandler Jacobs, Aaron Withers, Brianna Jacobs, Leslie Knight, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Dr. David Mazel, Janelle Siegel, Rachel Davis, Max Jacobs, Kathy Waldner, Richard Zuspin, Susan Abrams, Christopher Denton, Jerry Gimple, Phyllis Lapin, and Libby Katz. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of a prayer of healing, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours, or to add it, if you are online, into the chat. We think of all of them and ask for God's healing presence to be with them. We also ask for God to grant God's healing presence to victims of violence around the world and those suffering from COVID-19 and other illnesses wherever they may reside. We also ask God to care for those who care for the sick each day, granting them hope and health, love and support as we sing together this prayer of healing on page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We turn now to the bottom of page 370 as we rise to lift the Torah in Hagbah.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
Page 374. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Let us praise the name of Adonai, for God's name alone is exalted.
Hodo al eretz v'shamayim vayeren keren li'amo tihila lechol chasidav limnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Et chaim hi lamachazikim va v'tomcheha meushar teracheha darhei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Hadesh Yamenu Hadesh Yamenu Kikedem.
Please be seated. Page 594. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days since her funeral, of Jacqueline Britton. We mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Harry Falk, Rita Salowitz, Stephen Salowitz, Sally Macron Trapp, David Sanford, and Myrna Shack. If you are thinking of someone and remembering someone on this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours, or if you are joining us virtually, to put their name into the chat. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories be a blessing, and may we link their memories in our hearts to the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them, as well as the thousands and thousands who have died as a result of the pandemic, and the Shemei Rabbah, the great, holy, and awesome name of God that we praise now, rising as one community and turning to page 598 for the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye echon v'yom echon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, b'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam l'amei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha brichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all the bereaved here and everywhere with the blessing of peace. Together we all say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru. Amen.
Our closing song this evening can be found on page 625. Please join us in singing Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem go Yitzir Nivra, V'eknasa B'chefza kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. V'acharei kichlot hakol. Leva'ado yimlok nora. V'hu haya, v'hu oveh. V'hu yeh betifara. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini rali eight nasab b'chatzako azai melech shemoni kravi acharei kiklod hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yeh betifara. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini rali eight nasab b'chatzako azai melech shemoni kravi acharei kiklod hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh betifara v'hu haya v'hu oveh Betifara vehu echad v'yein sheni le'amshilo le'achbira beli reshit beli taklit velo ha'oz v'ha'misra Vehu eli v'chai goali v'tzorchev li b'etzara Vehu nisi umanos li Menat kosi meyom ekra Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini li'eit nasa b'chetzo kol azai melech shemoni kra v'acharei kiklot hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yeh betifara Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini li'eit nasa b'chetzo kol azai melech shemoni kra v'acharei kiklot hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh betifara v'hu haya v'hu oveh Betifara Beyado Apkid Ruchi Beyedi Shan Be'aira Be'im Ruchi Yeviati Adonai li V'lo ira Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini rali eight nasab b'chetzo kol azai melech shemoni kravi acharei kiklot hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yeh betifara Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzini rali eight nasab b'chetzo kol azai melech shemoni kravi acharei kiklot hakol leva'ado yimlok nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh betifara v'hu haya v'hu oveh Betifara.
Please be seated. Just a moment. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Great being here with all of you tonight, both here in the sanctuary as well as those of you joining us virtually online. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude our service with a Kiddush, a Motzi, and closing benediction. Sunday morning, we have religious school as well as Play Tamid this week. Our parent and toddler class will be meeting. Any parents or grandparents who have kids that are not yet old enough to be in religious school are welcome to join us out in the tent. And this week we're going to be learning about Havdalah with a special musical guest this week. So Ella, you can look forward to that on Sunday morning. Along with all your friends and their moms and dads. In addition, at 10:30, our B'nai Mitzvah class, for those who have upcoming B'nai Mitzvah and they know who they are, we'll be meeting with Mike. And at 7 p.m. On Sunday, our Sisterhood Book Club meets. On Monday, Hebrew with Molly continues at 10 a.m. in the conference room. And on Wednesday, I invite you to join me as we continue studying the book of Deuteronomy at 11 o'clock in the social hall. It's a great conversation each week. We typically get through about 3 to 4 verses, but we have these great conversations each and every week. So I hope you will join us as we continue studying Torah together. Our knitting and crochet group meets on Thursday at 1 p.m. And next weekend, I'm very excited, and I hope you will all join us for both Friday night and Saturday night next weekend, because we have a scholar in residence coming. Rabbi Ralph Mecklenberger, who is my friend and colleague and was my senior rabbi and emeritus rabbi in Fort Worth, Texas, will be joining us here at CDT on Friday night, where we will join together with the clergy and members of Temple Beth Tikva. Mike and I are very excited to lead services next week with our friends Rabbi Alexandria Shuval Weiner and Cantor Nancy Castle, and to hear Rabbi Mecklenberger teach next week on Friday evening here during our service. And then on Saturday night for Havdalah at 7 p.m., Rabbi Mecklenberger will be speaking at Beth Tikva in Roswell. That evening will begin with a nosh, a light nosh at 7 o'clock. Think snacks and desserts, not dinner, but a nosh at 7, followed by Havdalah, and then his talk at the end of the evening. If you are not inclined to drive to Roswell, but you still would like to come and want to carpool, let us know. You can email Molly by this Thursday, mpellet@dortamid.com, and we're going to try and arrange carpooling from our parking lot to Beth Tikva for anyone who doesn't want to or doesn't want to drive down there or doesn't want to drive by themselves down there. So I hope that we'll see you next Friday and Saturday night with Rabbi Mecklenberger as our special scholar in residence. Just a few other things. Thank you this week to Dan Rosen and the Men's Club, as well as Robin and Andrew Jacober for their donation of the heaters so that we can continue to use our tent outdoors even in the winter. We are really appreciative of that. Those of you who were here last week for our Hanukkah party know how handy they came in as we were out there for a few hours Sunday evening last week. And finally, we are currently collecting goods and food and other items for 100 Afghan refugee families who have come to the Atlanta area. Paul is actually here tonight, so you can ask her for details after the service during the Oneg Shabbat. But there's also information that is on our website and was in the e-blast that went out yesterday. The last day to drop off donations is next Friday, December 17th. So please make sure to do this really important mitzvah and help out these families who really need everything as they settle in this country as refugees from Afghanistan. We have a number of other things coming up as we move then into 2022. So keep an eye out for all of those things coming up. Just a note that our services on the 24th and the 31st of this month will be both early at 5 p.m. and online only. So just join us online on Facebook, on Zoom for those services. Let's conclude now with Kiddush and Motzi. So I'm going to ask everyone to turn now to page 123. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, V'yotanu kidashta, Mikol ha'amim, V'shabbat kodshecha, V'yava uvratzon, Hinchalatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
We uncover the challah as we sing together.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
We ask for God's blessing. Baruch atah b'voecha, baruch atah b'tzeitecha. As you were blessed in coming here tonight, as whatever it was brought you to this space, brought you to this space and time. As you came with those blessings, may you leave with blessings as well. The blessings of friendship, the blessings of community, the blessings of Shabbat. And may you take those blessings out into creation so that those blessings can be spread to all of creation, and hopefully soon bring creation more peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.